Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by Ted Lasso star Toheeb Jimoh, an Emmy Award nominee this year for the first time for his performance as Sam Obisanya on the hit Apple TV Plus series Ted Lasso, which obviously is also an Emmy nominee for Best Comedy Series and all these Emmy nominations. So I guess to start there, congratulations on your nomination. How did you find out? And can you talk a little about that morning? Obviously, it's such a great moment, I'm sure. But what was it like for you?
Oh man, I mean, to be honest, again, I didn't really expect the individual nomination. I was sure, everybody else was going to get like the usual candidates were going to get nominated. But so I wasn't even watching the nomination stuff. I was sat at home in my living room. I was watching Incredibles 2 with my big brother, and my agent calls me. She goes, "Yeah, you've just been nominated for an Emmy," and I was like, "Huh?" And then she shows me the screen. And we just started screaming in the house, going crazy. It was just, yeah, like a euphoric moment. I then tried to call my mum, who was at a party and couldn't hear me when I told her that I'd been nominated for an Emmy. So I go, "Yo, mum, I just been nominated for an Emmy," and she goes, "Toheeb, I can't hear you," and she hung up. And I was like, "Great, right back down to earth." So it was a fun, eventful day.
That's amazing. You mentioned something. I want to ask. You mentioned you were watching Incredibles 2. I had this wanted to talk about this and not to start it, but I love that Sam in the show is such a fan of animation, right? I mean, when he's talking with Rebecca, when they don't know it's each other. I think
Yeah.
his favorite movie. She's like his favorite movie is Ratatouille, and then you have Sam has a great recall of Frozen. Is that something that you also have, and the writers were like, oh, maybe we could have
I
Sam.
don't know if they got that from me actually. No, I don't think. I think that's a happy coincidence actually. I love all of that stuff. I'm a big anime fan as well. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they had heard me talk nerding out over Pixar, Disney, or Japanese animation stuff, and then added it in. But I also wouldn't be surprised if that was just Jason being Jason. So yeah, it's either
Yeah,
good casting or it's them stealing from me a little bit. But
maybe
either way, I'm
maybe a
happy it
little
happened.
both, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think as you were saying, you were not expecting the nomination. I think for fans of the show, I'll speak for myself. You're not to speak for the entire fan base. I loved you this season. I thought Sam had such a great season. So I guess in looking at it in hindsight, I was not surprised that you were recognized because I think you had so much great material. And you're in you have so many great moments as well. I guess when you found out, obviously I know you guys we're doing season 3 now. We're done with season 3, but back to season 2, and you found out where
We're
Sam
still
was going
filming
in the
season 3.
direction they were taking him, right? What were your first thoughts about that?
Going back to season 2, what were my
Yeah.
first thoughts about when
Yeah.
I found out the storyline for Sam?
Having all that material for Sam.
Oh man, I was over the moon. I think, as an actor, I was it was just dope to be trusted with, a lot more responsibility in this season and to get the opportunity to flesh Sam out a bit more. And we had Jason and I had spoken a bit at the end of the first season about what we wanted to where Sam was going to go and some of the stuff that he was thinking about in regards to Sam. And I guess the idea was just him maturing and him finding himself and him standing on his own 2 feet as a person, be that in business later on in the season, romantically or politically. And so I knew stuff was coming. I didn't know we were going to get the stuff that we got. I didn't know the Sam and Rebecca thing was going to happen. The Dubai Air thing, I knew a little bit. I knew a little bit about. I didn't know the Edwin Akufu stuff was coming, and so it was just every time you got a new script, it was like, okay, cool, this is what we're doing. Oh my god, this is dope. This is what we're doing. And yeah, especially the Sam and Rebecca stuff was the biggest surprise. Nobody decided to tell me that in advance, and so I just kind of found out when I read the script, and I was like, oh, So yeah, no, but I was pleased. I was excited. There was a lot of work to do. So it was euphoria and then a bit of all right, cool, let's get down to business and do the job.
Can you talk
I
a little
wasn't
about it?
quoting Mulan there, by the way.
Yeah.
That was genuine. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. No, it's great. Can you talk a little about, I mean, obviously Sam and Rebecca stuff is so big to the season. And I just love the way that's kind of revealed, obviously, to the audience. It's kind of a surprise. And then I think that when you guys first meet at the bar, I just love Sam. I love how you kind of react to that. You're surprised and excited. And I just found that so great. And then I just found the whole thing really great. And I know, I guess, how did you talk to Hannah about that and how you guys wanted to play those initial scenes of Sam and Rebecca meeting up, away from the text for the first time, I guess?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just trying to keep that natural, what's happening? Nobody knows what's going on. Is this going to work? Who knows? What's going on? Do you know what I mean? That kind of freestyle and chemistry and energy was important to keep and hang on to. And so we didn't talk about it a lot before we got there, but that scene in the restaurant was the first time that we had a thing together. And so a lot of that nervous energy that we had in the scene is just us. Like I remember when we rehearsed the scene for the first time, I just started laughing out loud. And then that became how Sam responded to seeing Rebecca for the first time. He just starts laughing. And so I think a lot of that stuff was natural. Hannah and I are friends. And so it wasn't, like nerve wracking or awkward at any point. Like we just dealt with the whole thing with good humor. And it felt like, when it was tough for me, I had my partner in Hannah. And when it was tough for her, she had her partner in me. And so we just kind of got each other through it, which is, what Sam and Rebecca were doing anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
You have in that later that scene, you guys are at the dinner table or the table, and it's like a montage of you guys just like kind of having like a nice time, like drinking and like talking, and you don't hear what you guys are saying. I just love that scene so much. It's like, again, an immediate charm offensive, I think, from you, and like so winning.
Yeah,
what was it like? What were you in that part? Or was that something? Did you know that? I guess was in the script, was it like that, or was that a filmmaking thing where afterwards they're like, oh, we'll montage this, or what were you guys saying? I guess in that
No,
part?
we knew there was going to be a montage, and so like it was just like we're on a date. So for a lot of the time we were doing date acting, and I think it was cool for me because Sam's the one who's initiating it. Like her immediate reaction is to run away, and he's like, no, actually, let's sit in it, embrace it, and whether it's platonic or romantic, let's just be here with each other in this moment and have some food and see what happens, and that's what happens. And so we did it. For the first time, we had some music playing and we were drinking. I'm drinking water. Hannah's drinking fake wine or whatever. And we were just, in the moment, like improvising opposite each other in character, doing our thing. The camera then goes outside and they're shooting the version of the scene where, the glass is hair and we're hair and nobody can tell what we're saying. And I didn't know they were shooting. So then at that point, it's just me and Hannah just talking. And I'm Toheeb. And I'm just like chilling, like talking to Hannah. And she knows they're shooting. And so she just carries on the conversation. And we're just chilling, talking. I'm being cool. I'm like, doing my thing. And then I hear and cut. And I'm like, huh? What's going on? She's like, ah. Do you know what I mean? And so like that stayed. So there's a little bit where we're shot from outside and I'm not acting. I'm just like in love with Hannah.
That's awesome. It's really good. Yeah, exactly. You mentioned like Sam being like more politically active too with the Dubai Air thing. I think that's your episode submission is Do the Rightest Thing, where we get to see Sam like kind of stand up. And you get, I love you have also like the relationship with his father gets more fleshed out and then kind of him standing up for himself. Can you talk a little about that and like getting into Sam's mindset? I think he's only like, he's 21 on the show, right? Like so he's obviously younger than you are and also young. So I think it's really interesting to watch his like more awakening or political awakening and stuff like that. Can you talk about like how exciting that was and how you wanted to play that, I guess?
It's very exciting. I think for me, that was the hardest job in the whole of season 2 is getting Sam to a place where, he's like the guy we've seen in season 1 who like we get like a little inkling of his like, political affiliations but overall he's just, the happy, smiley guy with, a bucket ton of energy and that's all we really see of him. And so to take him from that to a character who's standing up to an oil company and like dating the boss of the team and stuff was the challenge. I think the Dubai Air episode was, one of the most, I don't know, I really enjoyed that a couple of days when we filmed the entire episode. For me, especially as a Nigerian, like I think the most important thing was just like tuning into why that scene was important. Like this isn't just a scene where he's going, oh, I'm going to put some tape on my chest. Like it has, real important like cultural significance. And that's for me personally as well. And so, the important thing was just tuning into how hard that decision is for Sam to make, to stand up in front of, your entire team, a lot of whom are white guys who might not understand what this is and why it's so important to you, and just go, you know what, I'm doing it. And he doesn't speak to anyone about it, especially when he's taping it up. Like it's a decision he makes in the moment. Mm-hmm. He stands up, he looks in the mirror, he looks at the picture of his parents, who are my real parents, by the way. And so, like it's one of those moments where Sam, the character, and Toheeb, the actor, kind of overlap because I don't know how much you know, but in the summer of 2020, like there was so much going on in Nigeria, and especially, there was like big protests about the SARS movement, like the whole End SARS thing was going on. And as a Nigerian in London, there was a part of me that felt super detached from home, and I was really like trying to figure out how I could help. And help isn't always being on the ground back home protesting, and it isn't necessarily even like going to the embassy here and protesting, but that moment in particular, when we were filming that scene on that day, there was a part of me that felt like, all right, cool, this is a moment where I, as a Nigerian who's a part of the diaspora somewhere else, can do my part to help out back home. And so it was a really like particular thing of, it felt like me, Toheeb, and Sam, the character, were colliding, and we were both going into it, and we were both speaking those words, and yeah, it just resonated in such a deep moment. That's why I like that scene particularly. So yeah, it's
That's
just dope. I like that when I
yeah.
watch it back, it really
Did
means
you
a
what
lot.
kind of response did you get from like people like family or friends at home and stuff or
Um,
in Nigeria? I mean,
no, a lot, and even just Nigerians that I don't know reached out, and I think it's it's particularly important. Like people felt seen, which was dope. People responded to it, but I think outside of Nigerians, what was really interesting to me is because actors, I'm as an actor, I'm always thinking about how I can use my platform to spread information about like the stuff that I'm passionate about, and but like there are also times where it's like it can get a bit preachy, and people necessarily like aren't there to just be given your political messaging on whatever platform that you're on. But I felt like after that episode came out, it was like a really cool way to do it, because it was like you see this episode of the TV show you love, you see this character that you love going through something, and then suddenly you just feel attached to whatever the cause is. And so people were hitting me up being like, by the way, have you seen, da 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 in Nigeria has actually been asked to pull out, and people were sending me information about it. And so it just felt dope. There was on the one hand Nigerians being like, hey, I feel seen, and I felt like Sam was speaking for me. And then there was also, non-Nigerians, Americans, like people from North Carolina being like, by the way, here's us pulling up for Nigerians. And I just thought it was incredible.
that's awesome. You mentioned
Yeah.
doing it in front of his team. I wanted to talk a couple of things about that, I guess. Or one thing, like obviously, like Sam's relationship with Jamie, I think is so transformed this season too. I really like that because I love how you mentioned before how like Sam in the first season, maybe you're like, oh, he's really not, like. I mean, I know that's like a pat comment on the show, like it's like about nice people doing stuff, but I was like, one of the things I love about Sam, especially in this season, is you're obviously so competitive, the character, and so talented and like really great at, and like yet you never lose the niceness even when you're like wrecking Jamie on the field, right? I think it's like the first one of those episodes you like knock, like fully take him out at the knees, and then you're like kind of like, all right, like totally, and I love that. I love showing that you can be competitive and be, very aggressive or whatever it is, and also maintain like a kindness basically in that competition. And I think you see that too in the scene with Jamie in the locker room as well when he comes over to tape up. I guess, can you talk about how you think of that relationship evolving and how that kind of played out this season?
I think Sam and Jamie, to hold them up as like they're like the Ted Lasso case studies of, like especially because it's effectively our stories about you know the relationship between fathers and sons, and I feel like Jamie and Sam in particular are two people who have had the complete polar opposite upbringings in terms of their relationships with their dad, and so it's always interesting whenever they collide. But like Jamie bullied him the whole of the first season. Like Sam never wanted him to be there at some point. Like he really looked up to him, and he just got struck back down every single time. And like there's one bit in season one where Jamie goes, Sam shit, and then I run over and I go, what happened? What did he say? And everyone's like, no, it doesn't matter. And like that's just their entire relationship. And so to go from that to, like he falls out with Ted over Jamie coming back. And I think it also shows Sam's maturity in that moment. It goes, it's not about me and my relationship with you. Like this cause is much bigger than the both of us. And the fact that you are willing to pull up and to be a part of it, and to go out of your way to tape up and just like be there for me, kind of overrides everything else that comes before it. And so in that moment they find a friendship between the two of them. And yeah, I thought it was dope. And Phil's great. Like it was like, there's even a bit where he goes, oh, this Nigerian prick, and he comes up to me and he's like, is that cool, is that okay? And I'm like, dude, yeah, it's dope. But, I mean, I think he's awesome. But yeah, I thought it was dope.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you mentioned earlier, like getting the Edwin Akufu stuff like towards the end of the season. Sam Richardson is so funny. Also an Emmy nominee for guest actor. So really cool that you guys are both, recognized for that. I think those scenes are so fun and really funny. And especially the way he just unloads on you after Sam like turns him down. What was that like to do that?
That was the hardest. That was the hardest scene to do. That was the hardest scene because I was just laughing the entire time. There are so many shots that they have of like the back of my head and stuff that they couldn't use because it's just like my shoulders going, like, you know what I mean? Like the bit where he grabs the mannequin and he's strangling the mannequin, like none of that scripted. He's just doing all of that by himself. And it was just like my job in that scene was to just stand there and not laugh while he was being incredibly hilarious. But yeah, working with Sam was it was great. It was some of the most fun I've had on set. But I also think that scene's really dope because again, like the whole season is just about Sam maturing and doing stuff that I don't think even as a 20, like as someone who's 4 years older than him, that like I'd be able to do. He stands up in front of a billionaire who's offering him to be, the lead of a team in Morocco that's going to be completely centered around him, and you get to move back to your home continent and be closer to family and all of that stuff. And he says no, ultimately because he thinks, and the decision, because I remember when I saw that, I was speaking to Joe and I was like, somebody says you're going to be the lead, like the lead guy in an African football team that's going to compete and try and, make Africa like a footballing superpower. Why would you say no to that? And we kind of went back and forth about like whether Sam should just say yes and do it, because at that point he thinks like Edwin's a really good guy. But the question then becomes about like, where do you think you can most affect change? Like, do you have to be back at home on your home continent in order to affect change? Or is there something cool about being in a place where you have global reach? And, so like the bit in episode, I think it's episode 12, where he's walking down the street and he sees kids playing in the park and they've taped over the Dubai Air, but there's also a white kid who's taped over his Dubai Air thing. Then the thought comes up of, maybe I can best affect change here, and I can still be a part of my new Ted Lasso family and AFC Richmond family. And so, yeah, like again, that was another moment of me being like, wow, that 21-year-old kid is miles ahead of me, real life Toheeb Jimoh. Like, do you know what I mean?
It was really great. I think the whole arc this season was incredible. I want to ask you another, not as serious, but I love another thing I really loved was the team doing the in-sync bye choreography.
Oh my goodness.
for Sarah's goodbye, or Sarah Niles' goodbye, also
Yeah,
for her character's goodbye. I just like truly hilarious, and the way you guys all when you get it right, and then the team, I rewatched the whole season before we did this, and I was just dying laughing at it. What was that like for you guys to film? Because it felt like again a situation. I mean, at least for me, I was like, this is a situation where it seems like the actors are thrilled that they did this right, and also the characters are as well. So.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was us. That was us going crazy because we had rehearsal after rehearsal trying to nail it. Oh my god, like our choreographer was dope, but he was strict. And so like, we'd be doing it and then he'd go to collar, like, no, collar, elbows. And we're just there like, we're not dancers, and we're trying to get it right. And so it was tough. We did get there. And even when I watch it back, I'm like, we look kind of good. Like Phil's there in the middle, proper like giving it. And so there was a version that we shot where Beard goes, that was it, we got it right, and everyone goes, yeah. There was another version we shot where he goes, nope, not good enough, and then we have to do it again. And then like I think Jason right at the end was just like, do you just do one where you guys just go crazy? And we're like, cool. So we did the dance, and then Beard goes, that was it. And we're like, yeah, everyone's taking their tops off, we're pushing each other. It's just like all of our macho testosterone just like exploded in that one moment because we got an instinct dance right. I think it was hilarious. But you're completely right. Like that was us just being like, for fuck's sake, we got this thing right finally.
It's so good. It's awesome. It's just such a great dance, and I just love that scene so much. And I guess last thing, I know obviously like probably cone of silence around season 3, but I guess like broadly for Sam, are you excited about where he will go in season 3, or what can you say about season 3? I know we're talking about season 2 and stuff, but yeah.
We're still shooting season 3, by the way. So there's like, I actually don't know how it ends yet.
Right.
And so there's still, a lot of questions that are up in the air, but there are things that I think will resolve at the end of season 3. But it's along the same lines. I think, what I really loved about season 2 for Sam was it just felt like we were telling, the immigrant story, like the story of coming away from home to a new place and trying to find home in this new place and building this new place. And so yeah, season 3 for Sam is just about, taking the next steps. Like he's got the restaurant, he'll open the restaurant, and it will just kind of be about like how you tie roots down in this new land and make it home with your new family. And so, we'll get to flesh out some more of his relationship with his actual family, his parents and stuff. And yeah, I always get nervous when people ask me this question.
No, that's fine. I don't want to put you on it.
But I think no, resolution is the main thing that I'm thinking about, and it's about him growing as a person, not just as a footballer, but as a businessman, as a entrepreneur, as a lover, as a, do you know what I mean, as a family member, as a football player, as all of that. It's just about him taking that next step forward into manhood.
Yeah, so, it's great. The show is great. Your performance is incredible and so deserving of this Emmy nomination. Toheeb Jimoh, an Emmy nominee in the Best Comedy Supporting Actor category this year for Ted Lasso. All of season 2 and season 1 are on Apple TV Plus. You can watch right now. If you haven't, rewatch it because it's great. Toheeb, thank you so much. This is so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time. All right, we'll speak to you soon.